Hello, scientists and fiber friends. Thanks for joining me again today. We will be talking about a particular portion of medical laboratory science related to this lovely scarf that I have on that a friend of mine made for me. Mary, who also works with me, made this for me last year around Christmas time. And you can probably tell it has DNA helices on it. So our first piece of our science discussion today is going to be about molecular diagnostics.
This step involves the addition of heat needed to separate the two strands of the DNA molecule. Step 2, annealing. Okay, so this word means something a little different in biology. Basically, this is when the two DNA strands that now have been separated by that heat are going to be cooled and be joined by the primers. The temperature for this step should allow the primers to bind to the specific segment of DNA that you want to amplify, which means make copies of. Step 3, DNA synthesis. Remember, synthesis means to make something. With DNA synthesis, we're going to make more copies of DNA. And to do so, DNA polymerase will begin to work on both of these strands, and it will use the DNA nucleotides as its building material to amplify the DNA. We should note that the temperature at this step may be a little warmer than the previous step. It needs to be a temperature that is ideal for the specific DNA polymerase used. Now, after finishing one cycle of this, you have two double-stranded DNA molecules, right? Similar to how it would be in DNA replication within a cell. But you can repeat this now, except this time you now have two double-stranded DNA molecules to start with. So you repeat with the denaturation, annealing, and DNA synthesis steps. Now you have 4 double-stranded DNA molecules. You repeat the steps again. Now you have 8. And if the process is automated by a machine, which, why yes, they do have in science catalogs, you can actually do this fairly quickly. Which brings you to why. Why do this? Well, any technology that needs copies of a portion of DNA could find PCR useful. For an especially relevant example, I can mention one of the testing types done for the virus that causes COVID-19. COVID-19 is a pandemic that we're experiencing right now in 2020. And the virus that causes COVID-19 is called SARS-CoV-2. You might have heard of one test type that uses a sample from a nose or throat swab in a PCR test. But to be more specific, this test for this virus is a real-time reverse transcription PCR test. The reason it has this fancier reverse transcription in there is because this virus uses RNA as its genetic material instead of DNA. And you have to use an enzyme called reverse transcriptase to convert the RNA into DNA. So before we can do the regular PCR steps we've mentioned, we must convert isolated and purified RNA into DNA. A specific primer is added that will bind to an area of viral RNA, and then reverse transcriptase is used to convert viral RNA into cDNA, complementary DNA. Using specific primers and the Taq DNA polymerase, the cDNA can be copied over and over each cycle in the familiar steps we've been mentioning of PCR. See, the goal is you need enough copies of the viral cDNA in order for it to be detectable. And if the virus's genetic material is not present in the sample, then primers wouldn't bind, and there would be no cDNA copies produced. Overall, PCR is such a useful and fascinating technology that will likely remain indispensable for future uses. And it's a rare day when I pull out that word, indispensable. Well, that's it for the Amoeba Sisters, and we remind you to stay curious.
So I hope you found that interesting. I am outside today. It's beautiful. It is October 22nd, which means tomorrow is Mold Day. Check out the podcast from Knitistry Nerds. They are a couple of chemistry teachers who have a podcast about their knitting adventures, and they have a knit along that starts tomorrow. And if you want to know more about that, check out their channel. I will post the links below this video. All right. Mole Day, October 23rd, 6.022 times 10 to the 23rd of anything makes a mole. So Check it out. You chemistry nerds will know all about that. So the other part of today that I wanted to talk about in the knitting adventures realm are a few of my WIPs. I do have others that are still on the needles and have been on the needles for quite a while, but we're not going to talk about those today. I only have 4 that I'm actively working on right now. So, project bag. This is just a makeup bag that I picked up at Home Buys, I believe, like $3 or $4. I tend to be frugal, so it's nice. The yarn that I'm using is from Dye Mad Yarns. She is in Columbus. She just has a new store that opened up, I think, in the last month or 2. So if you're downtown Columbus, check her out. Dye Mad Yarns. She does the dyeing on site and tons of yarn. Tons of yarn. But the colorway that I'm using for this pair of socks is American Neon on her Chester sock base. And that is 75% superwash merino and 25% nylon, 437 yards per 100 grams. And I have a couple other of her colorways too, but this one is called American Neon, and it's really cool. It is mostly black, and this is just a plain vanilla sock with a slip stitch heel flap turn, 64 stitches, US 1 2.25 millimeter needles, magic loop method. Rounded toe. This is Kay Litton's pattern, essentially. So, I think I said 64 stitches, 2x2 ribbing, and yeah, it's pretty cool. I love how the striping goes. And we're getting our rainbow back again. Darn it. But pretty cool. So one sock done, and the other one, here we go. Same thing, except the pooling. Look at that pooling on this side. That is awesome with the blue and the yellow. And then mostly the red on the front. Now this one, if you were looking on my Instagram, I had some issues because I thought I was more capable, I guess. And I got excited after I finished the heel flap, and I just went straight into the gusset decreases. So there was no heel turn. So I had to frog it back like 6 rows and then did my heel turn and did all the gusset decreases again on the side. So now I'm back to knitting in the round and I'm on the foot. So we're in the home stretch. We'll be doing that foot and getting that done pretty quick. Um, so that's WIP number 1. WIP number 2 is in this awesome bag. Isn't this cool? This is from Midwest Stitches. Danielle. This is my first official project bag purchase from a small business. So I love it. It's got this awesome yellow contrast bottom, this cool fall print. It's perfect for fall. That's why I decided to come outside and record today. And on the inside, look at that. I love that fabric. Danielle puts some really cute things together, and this is just awesome. So in this bag, I have, did I bring my phone out so I can show you that? Okay. It is a pattern, a paid for pattern, but it is Mila's Summer Breeze. It's a tank top and it looks really good. I like the V-neck, and in the back there's options for either a straight across neck or a V-neck. But I think it's pretty cool. So I purchased that, and the color that I'm doing is more of a fall color, but I love the yarn. So here's the color. It's called Pumpkin Spice, and it's knit in the round. I'm using Magic Loop again, but this yarn is so soft. I love it. Just love it. and I'm knitting double because this yarn is very fine. I knit a pair of socks with it, and I love the socks. They've held up really well, and I'll talk more about those socks in a different episode. Um, but the yarn that I'm using is Loops and Threads Wool-like Simililane. I think that's how you say it. The color is Pumpkin Spice. And there are 678 yards and 100 grams. So fun times. That's why I'm knitting double for this tank top. Um, but I love it. It's so soft. And I'm using Chalgu needles, US size 8, 5 millimeter. So, and that's going pretty well. This is nice because it's just stockinette. And if I don't feel like thinking too much, I can just sit down and do that and get a few rows done. So my next WIP is in another cheap makeup bag because, you know, I'm frugal. And I do tend to keep my stitch markers and things on the zipper pull when I have a zipper pull. But this one is on some yarn that my son gave me for Christmas last year. I love the yarn. I love the yellow color of the yarn and the way that it was pooling. This originally was socks, but it didn't end up becoming socks because it's thicker than normal fingering weight. So this is KnitPicks Hawthorne. There's the back of it, if you can see it. It is 357 yards, 100 grams. So it wasn't going to make my full pair of socks, even though they look pretty cool. So I went ahead and frogged it. And I was trying to figure out what to do. I thought maybe I would make some shorties or something, but that didn't happen. But I will show you what I did. So it's 80% superwash fine Highland wool, which I think is cool, and 20% polyamide. So that's that. And what I've been doing, this is a crochet project instead of a knitting project. I am making a basket with popcorn stitch. So this is going to be a basket that will sit flat and kind of come up like a vase kind of thing. So I just knit in the round, did some single crochets until I got it to the circumference that I wanted. And then I just started doing popcorn stitch. And it's the same number of popcorn stitches in the round as you're going so that it's going to be a straight up cylinder. So hopefully by the time that I block it, everything will be good. And I will find a tutorial for popcorn stitch and post that for you in the show notes as well. Okay. But yeah, thank you, Stephen, for the yarn. This is going to be really fun to work up. And I've been having lots of fun working it up. And I get to crochet in addition. So, oh, the needle size for crocheting. It is a size G, 4 millimeter. And these are nice. They're squishy. I just found these on Amazon. Again, because I'm frugal. So. And the last WIP that I want to talk about is it's just in a yellow tote that now has a spider on it because we're outside because it's wonderful. It's October 22nd and it's 70 degrees here in Ohio, so it's awesome. So I am making a poncho, basically just a large rectangle poncho that I'll put some buttons on the front for my mom because we went shopping in Amish country a couple weeks ago and she came across a poncho that she really liked. And I said, okay, I'll make you one. So the yarn that I'm using is from Lion Brand and it is Re-spun and it's 100% recycled polyester. And this is some of the nicest yarn I have ever put my hands on as far as being acrylic yarn. It is so soft and squishy and springy. Oh my gosh. I made a hat out of this for my son, which I will show you on a different episode because he started wearing it because it was colder earlier this week. But it's a really cool hat. And I also made fingerless mitts for another one of my sons. So this is perfect for that kind of stuff. It has good negative ease, and bounces back. But this color is Raven. So it's a nice dark gray called Raven. And there are 658 yards in 284 grams. So nice, nice pile of yarn to be working with. And then the second color that my mom wanted, again in the Re-spun, is a colorway called Silver. And it's a nice light gray, contrasts with the Raven. Um, and this is gonna be really, really nice and soft and easy to wash. You just throw it in the washing machine because it's acrylic. And I love that it's 100% recycled. That sold me when I found it. I'm like, I gotta try it. But I am knitting this on some more ChowGoo needles. These are US size 4, 3.5 millimeter ChowGoo. I love ChowGoo. The um the join here is nice and smooth so things don't get hung up on it. And the cable is like a steel cable that's coated with a little bit of plastic, but it doesn't hold memory. So if you're knitting, you don't get those weird kinks and loops and things like you would with a normal plastic cable between the needles. So love these, love these. But what I'm doing essentially is just making a big rectangle. At the bottom, I started with some Hermione's Everyday Socks kind of pattern. And then mom wanted skinny stripes. So the main color is going to be the dark color. And then the lighter color will be the stripes. So I'm just going to play with it as I go. I might, put some cables maybe here and there or do some eyelets. I'm not exactly sure. So I've got some slip stitches going on in here to kind of give it a little bit of texture. But I felt like doing stockinette for a while, so I'm going to do some stockinette for a while. And then, when it's all done, I'll figure out how I'm going to finish the edges and then put some buttons, maybe some toggles or frogs instead. Um, and then, yeah, just see what happens, what strikes my fancy. I don't have a pattern for it, so just gonna wing it, which I do kind of frequently if it's something that, I'm just making up, like the basket. The only thing I knew for sure for the basket was that I wanted popcorn stitch and I wanted to stand straight up. So, but I will include information on that as well. So I will list all of the yarns and links to any makers that I've mentioned today. And yeah, so I hope you enjoyed seeing those whips. Next time I will probably have the socks ready and lined up so that I can show you the progression and improvement in my knitting technique on the socks, so that can kind of inspire you for what you want to do. So hope you enjoyed the talk about molecular diagnostics and the DNA, the molecules of deoxyribonucleic acid or RNA, ribonucleic acid. They're both part of molecular diagnostics. And yeah, so I'll provide some links to some interesting topics about molecular as well so that you can go check that out. I hope that you've enjoyed your time with me today, and I hope that you decide to come back. And thank you for those who have come back and have made it all the way through. Um, I'm really excited to be talking about science and my knitting / crochet adventures with you. So if you like hanging out with me, press the like button, and that'll let YouTube know that you want to see more of my content. So thanks so much. Hope you get to enjoy this wonderful day, and I will see you next time. Bye.